Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a brand new What If. What if Tanjiro could use Shadow Clone Jutsu? Now, I want to first say this. I'm going to do this a little bit differently in terms of the What If. Now, with that said, though, this style I eventually want to convert into basically doing like, with actual editing. Maybe like probably not the most insane editing you've ever seen, but just some basic editing. Eventually, I will get to that, and I used to do that. Me and my buddy, we used to do those type of what-ifs. Right now, I'm not going to, but I do want to eventually go into doing stuff like this because I want to do like a faster-paced what-if. Maybe it's 30 to 45 minutes, but I want to do the whole story within that kind of collection, but then do more of like a faster-paced breakdown / story type of thing. Now, with that said, though, I don't want to waste much more of your time because I want to get right into it because I don't want to just sit here and yap on. But that's kind of where I'm going to go with this video, at least for the moment, just see how it ends up going. So this is going to be like a full story. What if Tanjiro could use Shadow Clone Jutsu? Now, with that said, I want to get right into it. So make sure to check the links in the description for the Discord, the Spotify, and anything else you want to check out as well. And I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into it. So let's get it. Tanjiro Kamado is, well, with his normal family, and everything kind of goes just like the normal sense of what Tanjiro goes through. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because during this time where Tanjiro is with his family, a good chunk before the actual events of Demon Slayer, we actually have Tanjiro and his father find a book of some sorts, or his father gives Tanjiro a book of some sorts and tells him that there are a lot of hypothetical things within this book. Now, there's no guarantee that these books are going to be solid, ready, and actually usable, but these books are, for the most part, things that are legitimately going to be able to be helpful, but also give you a chance, or a fighting chance, against things that may be out there that may actually try to hurt you. In which Tanjiro's like, okay, well, do I ever have to open this? And his father's like, no. The only time I want you to open this book and read it is if you know that you, your family, or anybody else is in danger and you really need help. And that right there is something that Tanjiro hears, and he's like, oh, okay, I hear you. And yeah, I'll make sure to do that because, of course, we don't want to, use anything that is unnecessary because you never know. Maybe it's not necessary. So this would then lead to Tanjiro going through his life normally. His father passes away and all this stuff that normally happens, right? He goes down to the village, heads back up after that night, and he sees that his family is been basically destroyed. And I'll say that so that we don't get demonetized. His family was destroyed. Now, his sister, though, she is still alive, so he goes out of his way and picks her up and tries to get her out of there. Now, without anything going crazy, this is about the same thing that would happen in the original story, because this is when Tanjiro would fall down the mountain, his sister would attack, and Gyu would basically try to defend him / end Nezuko and stuff like that. But eventually, Tanjiro would show some promise, and even show probably a little bit more promise than normal because of just certain things that his father probably has told him. But overall, it shows a little bit of promise and eventually is given information about going to see Urokodaki. Now, after that is said, though, Tanjiro doesn't go immediately to see him. He immediately would run home through the blood, all the stuff of his family, and he would go grab a book, right? The book that his father told him to hold on to. So that's exactly what he does. Holds on to that book, and he bolts out of there with Nezuko and goes to actually see Urokodaki and get some help as normal. Now, when he gets there, he goes through like his normal thing. They have their first encounter with a temple demon, and after the defeat of the demon, they were then, met by Urokodaki, or Urokodaki obviously helped with the defeat of the demon, and this is when they began training. But during this training, Tanjiro would start learning about concentration breathing, about water breathing, but also he would pull up this book, the book that was right here in front of him, and he remembers his father's words, the words that told him that he needs to make sure that if he opens this book, it's for good reason. If he opens this book, it's because he's trying to protect his family, protect his whatever, right? This is like war, right? If you're going to war, you're going to fight, you're going to do this, you should open this book and learn everything you can. And when he opens it, there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things involving one singular technique that they call a clone technique. He's like, what the hell does this even mean? Like, I'm so confused. And Urokodaki comes over and reads it. He's like, whoa, this is weird. This is crazy. Like, do you believe this is actually going to work? In which he's like, I don't know. Maybe not. I have no idea. Because at the end of the day, these are all hypotheticals. Everything here that is in front of him is a massive hypothetical. He has no idea if it'll work, no idea what it means, and no idea if it will actually go the way they believe it will go. But he decides that he's going to work with it or work on it as he's training with Urokodaki. And luckily enough, Urokodaki helps him in both facets. He helps him train in the art of, swordsmanship, water breathing and stuff like that, but they also learn this technique. The technique is known as Shadow Clone Jutsu, and in learning this technique, just toward the end of it, right, maybe the last 3-4 months, he finally gets a hang of it and he can create a singular clone. But in doing so, it does waste a good bit of energy, but on top of that, it makes it so he could train twice as fast. So he has one of the versions of Tanjiro start learning the ways of water breathing, and the other one mastering the arts of actually being able to, utilize any technique or the main technique, Shadow Clone Jutsu, within the book that was granted via his father. Now, when learning all this stuff, he gets better and better at everything. So much so that when he's able to even make another clone to actually double up on training with his swordsmanship, making it so he's far better and far more capable by the time this is all over or said and done with. And even he trains obviously with Sabito and Makomo, the spirits of them, and eventually he slices the boulder in half and he's prepared for the final selection. And he takes everything he's learned and he brings it all back in to one singular Tanjiro, and he can tell that he is very, very capable, and Urokodaki can see it as well, that this kid has excelled way quicker than anyone he's ever seen, and he's more than prepared for the final selection. And the proof is in the pudding, because when he gets to that final selection, he gets allowed in and he starts fighting demons all the way throughout the week. He faces off with the hand demon, who stands no chance against Tanjiro, who decides to make a clone of himself as well and overwhelm the hand demon. And before you know it, he sneaks up behind him and slices the neck of the hand demon and ends the fight in one foul swoop. Because this shadow clones aren't just good for training. They're also good for following up on techniques and defeating these demons, defeating the hand demon, and eventually finishing the final exam. Because the final exam would then ensue. He would finish that, the final selection, but the final selection would end, and he would then basically get his Nishi ring, or after, stopping Genya, and after he stops Genya, from doing the normal things, he would head back to Urokodaki, and while they're waiting for his blade to eventually come back, he's obviously still training, he's still preparing, and he's doing it twice, if not 3 times as fast. So he gets what would have been a 2-day maybe training session, and it really turns into like a 6-day training session because of the versions of Tanjiro that are out there training. And that right there makes things very, very, very useful, because Tanjiro knows that he needs every bit of training. And when he faces off with his first demon after, meeting Kazumi and learning about what is deemed as like the demon that is within the night, the swamp demon, of course, when he faces it off with the help of Nezuko, this is a very easy fight for Tanjiro. Yes, it is a little bit tricky to deal with the portals that is creating, but adding an extra clone of himself, or maybe even another one, maybe 2 in total, would allow for the swamp demon to be overwhelmed. And before you know it, the swamp demon's like, what the hell is going on? Like, this kid, he's able to legitimately utilize blood demon arts, but obviously that's not the case. That's not what's being used. But at the same time, that's what he's thinking. He's like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. How can this make any sense? So he's defeated very swiftly, and Tanjiro is able to stop this demon, and also, get back some of the things that were taken, and also we're talking save the girl that was taken that same day. But we obviously have some more things to go through, and that is the first meeting with Muzan Kibutsuji in the city that never sleeps. Now, This city, obviously, it's full of lights and honestly a really good spot for someone to hide out. And this interaction with Muzan is very, very like similar to the original. It's not like he's going to go out of his way to try to end him with a clone and sneak attack him and stuff like that, because guess what? There's a lot of people here and some things could go really wrong really freaking fast. So he holds off on that idea and he decides, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I think that's ridiculous. I think there's a good chance that, you know, people could straight up die. So he doesn't do that. He holds off on that. But we obviously get the whole interaction with the demon kind of being created and him having to fend it off. Now, this also would lead us into later Tamayao and Yushiro, where a conversation would spur about Nezuko, about curing her, but also about Tanjiro's ability to utilize clones, because that right there is something that later Tamayao has never seen, but also brings up the fact that he needs to teach these other demon slayers how to utilize this technique, because this might be their way of stopping other demons. In which he's like, are you sure? Like, this is like, it's surprising that you're basically telling me this because you are a demon yourself. But Lady Tamayao makes it clear she hates Muzan, hates him, and wants him to be defeated. So she's going to do anything in her power to do so, and that also includes coming up with some sort of cure for not only his sister, but also for any other demon that can be cured and will brought back to be a human or be defeated via this cure. Now, after this is said and done, obviously after that conversation, they would be attacked by Susumaru and Yahaba. Now, with these two actually arriving, this is a stronger version already, even if it's only slightly, but I think a good chunk, maybe 50% stronger version of Tanjiro. But on top of that, he's going to make a clone of himself, a shadow clone, where he could actually go one-on-one with each demon. And in doing so, this gives him openings that he wouldn't have had in the first place. Especially with the help of like Tamayao and Yushiro, he would be able to basically open up like certain circumstances that he wouldn't have had in the first place, granting him a chance to really take down these demons before anything really happens. No damage is gonna really happen to the area, and no like craziness is gonna like ensue with these kind of demons actually happening or actually fighting, and they're able to defeat these two demons pretty swiftly with the help of an extra clone of Tanjiro, and a Tanjiro who's arguably 50% stronger than normal. Now, with that said, Tanjiro also would then finish their little conversation, talk about what he needs, aka the blood of the 12 Kizuki, and then would lead him to meeting Zenitsu for the very first time. He talks to Zenitsu, yells at him, tells him to leave the girl alone, tells him that they're going to go on a mission together, and Zenitsu is pretty blatantly telling him, like, I don't want to do this. Please don't make me do this, right? Like, I do not want to die. And that right there is like, all right, Tanjiro's like, come on, dude. You are a demon slayer. Like, you got to go, and we got to fight, and we got to save some people. And that's exactly what they end up doing, heading to this mansion where these two little kids are looking for their big brother. And in going to this mansion, they definitely can tell that it's overrun with demons. And Tanjiro is actually already encountering a demon, splitting, obviously the group being split up. Tanjiro would encounter Kyogai. And Kyogai, well, he would make things pretty awkward in terms of what Tanjiro can do. Because yes, he can make a shadow clone, but it doesn't change the fact that the whole room is like flipping and changing and moving and doing all these things and making things pretty difficult for Tanjiro to really keep up to the way he wants to keep up. But like I said, this version of Tanjiro is stronger, but he can't rely on some sort of sneak attack where, you know, his shadow clone is going to show up out of nowhere and slice the neck off of Kyogai. But luckily enough, he's able to somewhat like maneuver Kyogai and eventually would get an opportunity to slice him. But guess what? Before he can really do it and get the job done, another person would show up out of nowhere. But he's wondering, is it a demon? Is it a demon slayer? Is it a random person? And he realized it's a kid or a guy with a boar mask. And this is Inosuke. And Inosuke comes out of nowhere and kind of makes things, let's just say, a little bit awkward. Because Inosuke's like, I'm gonna fight the demon, and I don't need you, and frankly, I'm gonna fight you if you get in my way, and blah, 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 and he's this, he's that, and we know how he is. But eventually, he would get kind of kicked out of the room but this would give an opening to Tanjiro to where Tanjiro goes in for the ending blow, and he's able to do just that. Slice the neck straight off a Kyogai with basically no help from an actual clone, but help from a distraction from an incoming Inosuke. And of course he's like, well, thank goodness that happened, because that would have been a very awkward fight, especially with this guy, some random Demon Slayer, trying to take me down. But Tanjiro then would send a clone all around to clear out and help clear out other areas. And even Inosuke would run into this clone, in which he would slice the clone, like literally fight the clone. And he would be like, wait, I won. Like, I'm better. Like, I'm so much better than you. And then the clone would just poof into nothing, like literally poof into like mist. And he'd be like, wait, what? Like, I'm so confused. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, I hit him one time and he just poofed into nothingness. He's like, I've never seen something like that before. And eventually he would see Tanjiro outside, where he's actually outside with Nezuko, obviously with the box of Nezuko. And Inosuke's like, I killed you. Like, what happened? Like, where'd you go? And Tanjiro's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I was out of here. I've been out of there for a while now. And Inosuke is pissed. He's like, what the hell are you talking about, this and that? And they fight for a little bit, but Tanjiro actually gets an upper hand by just landing a clean headbutt. And this version of Tanjiro, like I said, is stronger than normal. So he's not really that behind in terms of physical like combat against Inosuke. Probably even stronger than Inosuke is right now in terms of hand-to-hand combat. Just like because of his advanced training mechanics. But with that said, he did get the blood from Kyogai. He did get everything he needed, and now he's protecting the box of Nezuko, and he eventually gets Inosuke to calm the hell down, and they eventually will come together and actually, have progression, which that's what Tanjiro wants. He wants progression because this guy is going insane and going kind of buck wild. So he's trying to get everybody's heads back together so they can continue pushing forward. Now, they eventually would group up as a 3-man and would head off, and the whole idea was eventually they find a house that they get some rest, they get some food and stuff like that. They have a little bit of downtime, but eventually they do get a mission and orders to actually investigate Mount Natagumo. Mount Natagumo is an interesting place because a bunch of Demon Slayers are basically going missing during this time. So they go over there and they want to figure this out, like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And obviously they find the Demon Slayer puppets, which Tanjiro and Inosuke actually have a pretty easy time dealing with the mother spider demon and her dolls and stuff like that. Honestly, the only issue eventually that's going to happen is Rui. Rui's going to be an issue no matter what. But before you know it, Tanjiro and Inosuke are split up because of the father spider demon. Tanjiro is surprised and actually knocked away, so he's actually forced to basically take on Rui by himself. But we both know that he is not by himself. Not just that he has Nezuko with him, but he also has his clones, in which this allows him to keep up with Rui pretty damn impressively. Actually, he cuts Rui's neck off pretty damn quick, in fact. And as he does this, though, he's only utilizing water breathing. He hasn't really kind of channeled his ability to utilize sun breathing. But when he realizes that Rui's not actually kaput and he's actually alive, being that he tricked him, basically cutting off his own neck, he now realizes that things are going to get really, really heated. No pun intended. Because immediately Nezuko would be stringed up and basically be getting hurt. And this rage, this flow, and this flame that would be basically pumping through his veins would make him want to protect his sister that much more. Awakening sun breathing for the very first time, or the Hinokami Kagura, and he would begin to utilize it against Rui. And in doing so, this gives him a massive upper hand, and he can feel the sun breathing pumping through him, the breaths feel kind of harsher and harsher, but he knows that this is the way. This is how he's going to truly defeat this upper demon, but this demon as a 12 Kizuki, one of the lower Kizukis, but still, this is how he's going to defeat him. And with the help of Nezuko, with her awakening of her blood demon arts, Tanjiro would use a clone that would both use the Hinokami Kagura, and they would both slice the neck off of Rui. And as Gyu Tomoyoka would arrive, he would be in shock. He'd be like, whoa, what did I just watch? this kid just defeated a member of the 12 Kizuki, and he might have just awakened an ability to utilize a breathing style that they were not expecting. Tanjiro truly is the sun breather, and he just proved it in the face of one of the stronger Hashiras, just like that. And before you know it though, Tanjiro would immediately have to be defending Nezuko, fighting Kanao before you know it, because they believe that Nezuko is a threat. A demon is a demon, and there's no way around it, and he's protecting her with his life. And eventually that fight would come to an end where Tanjiro would be stopped, and well, he obviously would be knocked out, and they would be brought amongst the rest of the Demon Slayers and would be put on trial. Now, we know how this situation goes and how this whole story goes, and that story would go exactly the same. Tanjiro would get interrogated, the trial, blah, blah, blah. Saname would do his thing with trying to, discredit Nezuko. But eventually, they would decide, or Ubuyashiki would decide that, guess what? They will now be Demon Slayers, Nezuko, and Tanjiro. And the blessing is obviously from Kodaki and also Giyu Tomioka. Now, with all that said, this is when we start the rehabilitation training. Lots of rehabilitation training to get better and all of the above. And Tanjiro's ability to train, we know how crazy it is, and he could probably do it 3 times faster, if not more, because of his clones. And this is when he starts revealing his ability to utilize this in front of everybody. He shows the Hashira the ability to clone themselves, and he tells them that they need to keep this under wraps at all times. So in terms of, kind of talking out loud about it, they probably should avoid doing that, in which they say, like, this is a safe space, but he's like, I know it is, but this is something that my father told me without a shadow of a doubt should only be used in the most dire situations. If you have to protect your family, if you have to go to war, if you have to fight, if you have to protect, all these things. This is a dire situation. So he tells them and basically helps them learn, like the other Hashira, anybody who's available, obviously, because most of them will go on missions, stuff like that. But during his training, he would train in concentration breathing, a total concentration breathing constant, but also would train in a little bit of more of the shadow clone stuff, right, with the multiple clones. And he would have other clones helping Zenitsu and Inosuke learn it, but in all honesty, Inosuke probably ain't gonna learn it, and Zenitsu probably the same idea, because Zenitsu, well, they're not really the best at learning things in that way. And Zenitsu, well, he only learned one version or one form of thunder breathing, so it's gonna be difficult for them to learn something like this. But in terms of the Hashira, there actually would be a good chance that they can somewhat figure out how to utilize it, and that right there is very important. Very, very, very important. So they do figure that out, right? They kind of come to those conclusions. They figure things out. And Tanjiro gets a good bit of training. So much so that, like, that training makes him far, far strong. We're talking this training session would be even greater in terms of a jump than the one before with Kodaki. Because the reality is he has better training, right? Because he already had a good format or a good base. And then now he's training with other Hashira possibly, or learning from other Hashira. And now he's going to go meet Rengoku for the first time to learn even more and watch him as a Hashira would be at work. Now, obviously, the events of the Mugen train would go pretty similar. We would have them, talking about, please be my sensei, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The Demon Slayers would be put to sleep, and then we would lead to the Enmu's, like, dream thing, and Tanjiro would eventually wake up. And the defeat of Enmu would be pretty damn fast. I mean, at the end of the day, Tanjiro is legitimately 3 to 4 times probably stronger than he is, because he got obviously training in total concentration breathing constant a lot quicker. He probably got to train with the Hinokami Kagura a lot quicker. He got to train, anything, right? More shadow clone stuff and stuff like that. And would even have taught Rengoku how to utilize shadow clones, but obviously he doesn't personally know if Rengoku has it down packed or he needs help with it still, or what he knows, right? He doesn't know what he knows. Now, with that said though, Tanjiro for the most part is prepared and ready. So when Enmu is defeated by Tanjiro and Inosuke, they would then face off with Akaza. Now this fight is a pretty tough one. And Rengoku, well, he knows it's just that, a tough one. So he tells Tanjiro to stay out of this fight because his potential as a demon slayer goes beyond anything that they can imagine. Because guess what? He doesn't know that even with them together, if they could defeat Akaza. So Rengoku would go one-on-one with Akaza the entire time. The entire time. And he would take a blow that would be brutal. An absolutely brutal blow. But he's trying to hold Akaza still so that he can't get away. Rengoku would strike down on Akaza trying to slice off his neck, and Akaza would be like, oh shit, like this is not good, moving out of the way just in time to where his neck isn't cut off completely. But guess what? There's another version of Rengoku standing right behind him, and out of nowhere a slice would ring out as the neck of Akaza would be sliced right through. And this would shock him. He's like, I didn't even sense him. What does this mean? What is going on? And it's because the shadow clone doesn't give off the same intent that the original Rengoku was giving off. And frankly, who would have thought that another version of Rengoku would have showed up behind Akaza when Akaza can see with his own eyes all of the other demon slayers in clear view? So who would have thought, even if he sensed it, how would he have known that this was a actual threat to his living being? And before you know it, his head would clatter on the ground, bouncing, and he would wonder to himself, how did I lose? I can't believe that I lost. Here and now? How was I defeated? But he can feel that there's something holding him still, something that could bring him back to life. But as he's doing this, he sees something else. He sees the love of his life standing, waiting for him. But not only that, he feels this urge and this hurting that he knows that he lost. He lost to this Hashira, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Rengoku was the better fighter on this day. No matter how you spin it, this will always be a loss. And in his eyes, he failed. And just like that, the sun would rise and he would burn up and disappear. And Rengoku would stand there with a pretty sizable chest wound, and he would be holding still. And Tanjiro's like, breathe, like we can get you out of here. We can probably save you. But Rengoku looks at him and shakes his head. But he smiles, telling him some information about going to see his father and stuff like that. But then he basically looks off into the distance onto what, well, literally nothingness to the eyes of Tanjiro. But he sees his mother. He sees, a different life. He sees the afterlife. And he heads straight for it. And Rengoku, well, he may be defeated. But the crows would ring out that Rengoku has lost his life. But Rengoku has defeated an upper moon. And this right here, the words that were said, that Rengoku defeated an upper moon with the sacrifice of his life, would make things completely different. Everybody would be in shock, wondering how, when, what is even going on. And Tanjiro, well, when he arrives back, he gives them the whole story and says that Rengoku was able to create one shadow clone, and there you go. It gave him an opening that he would have never had, and he got it. And he got the finishing blow, and they were able to defeat it. But it obviously took a lot out of him. Frankly, he might have been able to actually survive if he didn't split up his energy into that shadow clone. But the Hashira tell him that if he didn't, then he may have still died, but without something to show for it. And at the end of the day, an upper moon was defeated, and they tell Tanjiro that everybody learning this technique is his number one goal. Should be and will be his number one goal. So when all this stuff starts happening, where they have to figure out the whole, entertainment district and stuff like that, and Tanjiro could go and help and fight, stuff like that. he's actually not allowed to do so. Inosuke and Zenitsu, who, by the way, have been training hard with Tanjiro. Same thing with Tengen, learning from Tanjiro as well. Them three will go, and maybe one other person, one other Demon Slayer, maybe even someone like Kanao would end up going, just because that is like at least more firepower to head off over there. But they also now know how to use the basics of Shadow Clone Jutsu. Now, Tanjiro is only there at the Hashira Mansion to teach people how to use it. So that is what his whole goal is. He's training with the Shadow Clones, of course, but he's also trying to teach people how to utilize this technique. Now, it's difficult, very difficult, and takes a ton of energy out of you, but at the same time, could be beneficial in a last-ditch effort, in which they ask him, like, well, you don't really use it like a last-ditch effort. And he says, yeah, I don't, but at the same time, I've been utilizing it for a while now. Like, I've been learning it, I've been perfecting it, I've been training it. So it's not the same, right? It's not the same as if any of you or anybody else decides, oh, I want to use Shadow Clones or I want to do this, because you don't have the experience, you don't have the progression that I had or I have. So at the end of the day, you want to keep things simple, keep things from destroying your body, and keep things from literally killing you. So he teaches everybody everything they can, but he also learns more and more about sun breathing and trains in the art of sun breathing, learning so many new techniques, learning so many new things with sun breathing, and becoming way more capable, not only with sun breathing, but with so much more as well. We're talking breathing style techniques galore. I mean, his whole thing, he's able to train like insane. I mean, we're talking, he's able to get like a week's worth of training in a single day. Like, that is what he's doing basically, right? With his clones. Yes, he can't make like freaking, we're talking, he can't make like 100 clones or anything, but he can make a good substantial amount of them now. That is pretty decent, you know, maybe like 5, depending, right? 3 to 5, but it also like makes his energy pretty bad and stuff like that. But he can still create a certain amount of clones that make it so he can get a ton of training done in a certain amount of time, and really it doesn't affect him to the point where his training's not sufficient, right? And he goes through a lot of this training, Hashira training, in fact, that they want to push his body to a different level. So they're doing that as well, while, well, it seems like Tengen, Zenitsu, Kanao, and Inosuke have success, because before you know it, after days would pass on, well, they hear the sounds of the crows once again, that another upper moon was defeated. Daki and Gyutaro was defeated, and Tengen Uzui and, well, Kanao, Inosuke, and Zenitsu were the ones that defeated them. And in doing this, Tanjiro can see that there's truly a chance that there could be so much more there. And funny enough, when Zenitsu and them arrive, they say that they actually sampled the blood of the demon, saying that they remember him bringing that up, so they wanted to make sure that that was all handled beforehand. Now, this would lead Tanjiro to actually still going to the Swordsmith's village arc, believing that he can get some solid training there, and potentially get more things done. And that includes also working with Mitsuri, Genya, Muchiro, who doesn't really like him very much, saying that he's just some random prodigy that just showed up and blah, blah, blah. And Tanjiro's like, well, aren't you that? Like, you are like just this prodigy that just showed up, but whatever. He's like, never mind. That's beyond the point. Now, he's just like, dude, I'm here to help no matter what. And obviously he gets some training with the Yurichi Type 0, but the main thing is Tanjiro, Nezuko, Genya, Mitsuri would face off with Tengu. And I think it's pretty obvious to say that with Shadow Clones, with Tanjiro being way more progressed in sun breathing, like way more progressed, this fight is kind of straightforward and kind of trivial. At the end of the day, he's able to defeat, or they're able to defeat Tengu in a quick succession. At least they think they can, right? But they still struggle with the aspect of, like, they have to cut off his neck and, you know, cut off this version's neck and this version. So it still is a bit of a stall tactic for Tengu, and it still takes quite a while. But after it is all said and done, Tanjiro doesn't have much issues actually defeating him. But as basically his neck is cut off, and as they're like, he's literally defeated right then and there, the sun would just be rising, and Nezuko would be outside in the sunlight. So he runs over trying to protect her, getting her out of there. But as he picks her up to like get her out of there, he realizes that Nezuko isn't burning. He's in shock. Like, what is going on? How is this happening? And well, he realizes that this right here is exactly why Muzan did what he did, because the Kamado family has the gene that allows demons to conquer the sun. And that makes it so Muzan would then want to hunt for Nezuko. But here's the thing. Muzan is at a massive disadvantage without the upper moon Akaza, but in his head, his just want and desires for, legitimately the ability to conquer the sun kind of clouds his judgment. So when the Hashira meet, the Hashira train, and everybody starts training, preparing, and doing everything they can, the preparations would make absolute monsters out of some of them, especially with some of them being able to utilize shadow clones. Tanjiro basically perfecting sun breathing and just pushing himself beyond every measurement imaginable. And Tanjiro would basically, at the end of all of it, after training with every Hashira and every single person, well, at the very end, Ubuyashiki, before he heads off, would deem Tanjiro the new Hashira in replacement of Rengoku, and he replaces him as the sun-breathing Hashira. So Tanjiro goes in, and he goes into the fight of the Infinity Castle as deemed one of the Hashira, of the sun-breathing Hashira. And even so that Rengoku is gone, Akaza is as well, freeing up Giyu and Tanjiro to help out with any other fight that needs to be dealt with. But Tanjiro, well, he ends up fighting against Doma. Teaming up with Inosuke and Kanao, he makes this fight a lot simpler, and especially because he lost somebody that he grew quite fond of, and he takes it out on Doma beyond imagination, and his ability to utilize sun breathing gives him a massive upper hand on Doma. And on top of that, their abilities to utilize shadow clones, even if Kanao's not amazing at it, and Inosuke might not even know how to use it, but Tanjiro does, and he gives it his all, at least to an extent, to take down Doma. But he kind of saves his energy just enough, because when they defeat Doma, they actually, put an end to this creature, this disgusting creature that is Doma. He would then now know that everything now runs through Muzan. Everything comes down to this. So yes, Tanjiro unleashes everything he's learned in the past years. He unleashes shadow clones alike. He does everything. He starts utilizing every single form in unison with sun breathing, and starts utilizing everything he possibly can. And everybody that's watching, everybody that comes to help, they're in awe. They're thinking, this Tanjiro kid, he dropped out of the sky. That's what he did. He dropped out of the sky to save us. Whatever he's done, whatever he did, all the things he's taught us, without him, we would not be in this situation. So if he's willing to give his life, we should be willing to give ours. And Hashiras alike, Demon Slayers alike, would give it their absolute all, creating, a single shadow clone, because they can't do a ton, but they create a shadow clone and they go all out. Everybody in unison, fighting alongside Tanjiro, doing everything in their possible power to defeat this monster. And finally, the sun would show up, and Muzan would try and take his risk, his singular risk, because he might be burning up, but he knows that he could take Tanjiro with him. And immediately, that's what he would do, because Tanjiro would turn into a demon and start going berserk. And Tanjiro would start going crazy. And all the Demon Slayers, they realize they have to do something to end Tanjiro. But here's the thing. Tanjiro is immortal. There's not a single thing you could have done about it. He's immune to the sun. He's immune to it all. Frankly, what they need is the cure. That's the only thing that they can do. And a lot of them, they sacrifice getting hurt and wounded embed the cure within Tanjiro, and Tanjiro would eventually get his little his grasp of humanity back, and he would be back and brought back to them once again, and he no longer would be on the grasps or be held by the grasps of Muzan Kibutsuji, and eventually Tanjiro would be back. Tanjiro would be with his family again, and he lays there, panting, tired, and exhausted, and they all come over, excited, and they hug him, and they hold him tight, believing that it's now over. The demons are over, and this world is in a better place now because of him and so many others, and now they understand. They all understand that this is what sacrifice is. But sometimes when a demon or any other creature has such an advantage over you, you need an advantage yourself. And luckily enough, Tanjiro Kamado was born one day a long time ago, maybe 16 years ago, to give them the opportunity, to give them the chance, and to give them their true way of defeating the demons. But with that said, that is the end of this story. What if Tanjiro could use Shadow Clone Jutsu? And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this way of approaching things, like I said, 30 to maybe 45 minutes, maybe longer, maybe 30 to 50. It would be a lot faster pace, and it's kind of more of a breakdown-esque type of thing, how things would change, how he would benefit in certain areas, stuff like that. Still a little bit of story intertwined. I like this version of it just because I could also get videos in one part, because I know a lot of you are like, we don't like the parts. I would love to see it all in one go. So this would be kind of best of both worlds a little bit, but I would love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.